Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Maseches SOTAH Daf Lamed Hey. We are holding on the last line of Lamed Daled Amud Beis. So we're discussing the Meraglim, the spies that were sent by Moshe Rabbeinu to tour Eretz Yisrael and report back to Bnei Yisrael. Says the Gemara, Vayoshuvu mitur haaretz. So they returned from touring the land, touring. So they came back, and the pasuk continues, Vayelchu vayavoyu. They left and returned. We already know that they went. It should just say vayavoyu. They came back to Moshe, and discuss what they saw. Why the word vayelchu? Answers the Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Makish Halicha Levia. The reason why the pasuk mentions Vayelchu with Vayavoyu, in order to connect the going to the coming, the leaving to the returning. It was with the same mindset. Ma bia be'etza ra, just as their return was with an agenda, with a scheme to badmouth Eretz Yisrael. Af halicha be'etzora, the same was their thinking as they left. This was their scheme, this was their plan all along. Now, although the pasuk does call them anoshim, and Rashi said they were tzaddikim, but ba'isa shah, at that point, Hashem does not hold one accountable for his future plans. At that point, it was still innocent. But of course, as the Gemara tells us, it turns out that this was their plan all along. That was their purpose for going. So they come back to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Aaron, and they report as follows. We came and we saw that indeed it was a land flowing with milk and honey. Uksiv, and then it says something very negative, something very scary. Ephes, but ki az ha'am, the nation, the goyim are very brazen and strong and fearful. Why did they begin with something positive and then move on to negative? Rabbi Yehuda Mishum Rabbi Meir Kol lashon hara she'ein bo dvar emes b'tchilasai. If you want your lashon hara to be accepted and believed, if a lashon hara, if evil speech does not begin with something truthful, something positive, ein miskaim b'soifa, it won't take hold. It's more believed when you start by speaking truth, something real, and then you veer off to lashon hara. That's why they began with something positive about Eretz Yisrael. You should know it's really Eretz Yisrael that opened up everybody's ears and made it more believable and more accepting, even though they painted Eretz Yisrael in a very bad light, ultimately. Vayas kolei v'sa'am el Moshe. Vayas, Rashi says, Shishkan, he quieted them. He told everybody, quiet down. How did he do that? Vayas kolei v'sa'am el Moshe. Amar Rabbi sisam edvarim. So he darshan has Vayas lashon, he sitam. He swayed them. He convinced them with his words. So how did he get the crowd to listen to him? So he saw like this. Pasach Yehoshua. You see, initially he notices that Yehoshua starts speaking, and they cut him off. Amrlei, they tell him, "What are you praising Eretz Yisrael?" Dain, this person, Roish Ketia, without a head, cut off head, meaning he had no boys to speak of. Yehoshua had no boys. So Yemalel, he's the one to speak. This whole issue isn't pertaining to him. His boys are not going to be busy inheriting Eretz Yisrael. What's he putting his 2 cents into the discussion, into the debate? So they cut him off. Omar, so now Kalev figures. They'll give me the same treatment. If I begin speaking, Amri b'Moshe, they'll say something, they'll call me some name, and they'll cut me off. They'll cut me off. They'll quiet me down. So he came up with a tactic, a brilliant ploy, to get them to listen to him, just to get them to listen. Amarlan, he suddenly, declares, he calls out, Rabbi Yisai, we're all ganging up on Moshe Rabbeinu, right? V'chizu b'vad asalona ben Amram. You think this is the only thing? That Ben Amram, Moshe was Amram's son. This is the only bad thing he did for us? You think this is the only thing? So everybody's thinking bad, right? Savri b'gnusei k'mishtoi. They're thinking that, Kalev is about to help us gang up on Moshe Rabbeinu. That he's going to speak negatively, b'gnusei, of Moshe Rabbeinu k'mishtoi. He's going to be speaking. Ishtiku. Silence in the room. You can hear a pin drop. And he continues. Once he had their ear, Amar, he tells them, you think this is the only thing that Moshe Rabbeinu did for us? Look what else. He took us out of Mitzrayim, split the Red Sea, served us the man. He's a great leader, a caring leader. And now as well. He has a good track record. Listen to him, follow him. It's only for our good. Even if he tells us, climb up to the sky with ladders. Shouldn't we listen to him? Of course. Let's go. We're going to go up to Eretz Yisrael and inherit the land. But the other Meraglim, his colleagues, negated his opinion. No, we can't do it. Davar Gadol, a very bold thing. Dibru Meraglim was said by the Meraglim at that point. What did they say? The nation of Canaan is stronger than Mimenu. Instead of Mimenu, stronger than us. El Mimenu, some say Mimenoi, stronger than him. Hashem Chas v'Shalom. Kaviyachal asked to say, Afilu balabais, even like a marshal, even a landlord, wouldn't step foot into the house. They wouldn't take out his utensils from there. He's scared to walk in there. Meaning, even Hashem can't get rid of the goyim in Eretz Yisrael, so to speak. Eretz oicheles yeshveahi. This land consumes its inhabitants. Everybody was dying right and left. Look, this is not a place to be. Dorash Rava, says Rava, Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem figured like this. Ani chashavti l'tova. Hashem says, I meant it for their good. V'him chashvu l'ra, and they interpreted it bad. Ani chashavti l'tova. My purpose was good. To kolecha demotu. That wherever the Meraglim, arrived, every place they came to, mace, suddenly. Who died? Chashiva dedu, their leader dies. Why? This was part of my plan, says Hashem. Ki they didn't introduce, so that they be distracted. They don't investigate who these people are. There's another version of what happened. Eiv, the great Eiv, who was a big tzaddik, and in his zechus, they would be protected. The inhabitants of Eretz Canaan. Nach nafshe, he passed away. V'tridu kol yam, and all the citizens of Eretz Canaan were now busy be'espeda with the hesped of Eiv. Says Hashem, this was my plan. To get them preoccupied. And not to notice, not to busy themselves with the Meraglim that are intruding on them. And how did they perceive it? How did the Meraglim interpret it? In a bad way. They said, Eretz oicheles yeshveahi. They complained. Everybody's dying. Wherever we go, everybody's dying. And they continued. We considered ourselves, in our eyes, like small grasshoppers, relative to the giants we found in Eretz Yisrael. Likewise, we were considered in their eyes, they perceived us as little midget grasshoppers. We're nothing compared to them. Amar of Mersharshia. Meraglim shikri havu. These Meraglim were liars. Why? Based on what were they saying this? It wasn't factual, it was just guesswork. Okay, the first part, that makes sense. In our eyes, we perceived ourselves compared to them like grasshoppers. Okay. But the second part, how did they know what's going through their minds? And this is how they, the locals, perceived us. How do they know? What are you talking about? Just speculation. Says the Gemara, no, not necessarily. It could be that they actually did know it firsthand, because ki havo mavri aveli. Remember, they were now avelim. Many people were dying, so when they would serve the avel, the meal, it's called a sudas havra. How would they do it? Out in the street, Tuti Arzi Havu Mavri. They do the Suda beneath the cedars out in the open. Okay, so that was happening as they were touring the land. And when the Meraglim noticed the giants there, Salku, they quickly climbed up Yasvi Bilani, and they climbed up into the trees to get away from them, to hide. And what did they overhear? Shami, and they overhear the Ka'amri, that the locals are having a conversation, and they're saying to each other, Kachazina, we're noticing Inshi the Damu Lekamtsi, people that look like grasshoppers, weeny teeny people, Bilani out in the trees. So this wasn't just speculation, it was based on reality. Now, upon hearing the terrible report, Vatisa Kala Eda, Vayitnu as Koilam Vayivku, the whole nation begins crying. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Hayom, that day, Erev Tisha B'Av Hayah, was Erev Tisha B'Av. That night when they were crying was Tisha B'Av, the night of the Churban HaBeis HaMikdash. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says, Hein Bochu B'Chiyah Shalchinam, they're sitting and crying for nothing. The greatest gift I'm about to give them, they're crying about it. V'ani Ekba Lehem B'Chiyah L'Deres, and this will result in generating a day of crying for generations to come because of the Churban Beis HaMikdash. And everybody wanted to stone them. And Hashem suddenly revealed himself. The fact that we have a description of stoning next to Hashem's revelation, we learn that they took stones and they threw it up towards Hashem chas v'shalom. So the ones who spread this false information died in the Magefa. The fact that it says Ba Magefa, Rashi says, Mashma, it's a known death, Mida connected, Mida measure for measure, something which was befitting their crime. Taisus adds, it says, they died Ra Ba Magefa, so we learned that some unusual death. It teaches us that their tongues extended, and landed on their stomach, and there were worms coming out of their tongue, into their stomach, and back to their tongue, and out to the tongue. That's one opinion. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Amar, Be'askura Mesa died due to this askara condition, which is a einish for speaking Lashon Hara, as the Gemara in Shabbos Lamed Gimel tells us. Okay, now we're actually going to go back to that brisa which we began the other day, describing how Klal Yisrael crossed the Jordan River into Eretz Yisrael. So the water split, it accumulated into this huge water wall. Everybody crosses. As soon as the last one of Bnei Yisrael crossed, Chazru Maim Lam Kaimon, the water back to its flow. So Rashi explains that actually what happened was Yisrael crossed the Yarden while the Kohanim was standing in the Yarden, keeping the water at bay. When Yisrael crossed, the Kohanim backed up to the east side of the Yarden. Nitku kapos ragle Kohanim el Acharava. They detached, so to speak, their feet from the Yarden back. They took a step back where they came from to dry land, and at that point, it's flowing again. Vayashuvu mehar Yarden l'mekaimam vayelchu k'tmal shilshaim al kol gedaisav. It's filled to the brim like it always was. So now we have nimtza oren v'noisav ha-kayanim mitzad echad. We have the oren and its carriers, the kayanim, on one side, on the east bank of the Jordan. Yisrael mitzad echad, and Yisrael on the west bank. How did they get across now? Nosa oren es noisav. A miraculous thing. The oren helped its carriers across. It flew everybody across. As to say that the oren doesn't need any help. He helps us. The Torah carries us. V'avar, and he crossed. Shenema vayihi kasher tam kol ha'am laver. Everybody crosses. Vayavar aron Hashem v'kehanim ofnei am. Then the kehanim with the aron flew across as well. V'al davar ze nenash uza. So this concept that the Aron doesn't need our help. Hashem and the Torah carry us, rather than vice versa, was a mistake committed by this fellow called Uzzah. And he was punished as a result. Shanamar, Vayavoyu ad Goyren Kidain. So this is the story, the well-known story with the Aron containing the Luchos, which was taken into captivity by the Plishtim. At the time of Eliyahu Kohen, it was taken out of the from the time of Mishkan Shiloh, and it was taken into captivity. Eventually, the Plishtim realized it wasn't worth their while. They were suffering from having the Aron by them, so they sent it back, sort of remote control on this animal-drawn wagon, and then it came to Beis Shemesh, as we're going to see later, and they did not treat it with respect, and they were punished until it was placed into the house of Oved Edom Hagiti in a place called Kiryas Yearim, and he actually had great blessing and bracha from the Aron's presence. Ultimately, David HaMelech took the Aron to Ir David, where he resided, and the last stop, of course, was the Beis HaMikdash in the time of Shlomo HaMelech. So we have the Aron now coming to Goyren Kidain. And this was at the point when David HaMelech was bringing the Aron from Kiryas Yearim to Ir David. So he came to this place called Goyren Kidain. And the Aron was sort of wobbling, about to fall. So what happened? Vayishlach Uzzah es yadeh, this person called Uzzah, extends his hand, le'eches es Aron, to grab the Aron to stabilize it. And he got punished. But the Aron doesn't need your help. Amar LaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Hashem tells him, Uzzah, look, the Aron has the power to carry its carriers. Noisav Nasa, at the time of the Yarden, the Aron carried its carriers across the river. Atzma localfile. Don't you realize that the Aron can protect him, can take care of himself? Why are you interfering? This was perceived as a lack of respect, lack of regard to the true status of the Aron, and he got punished. Vayicharaf Hashem v'Uzzah vayakeu Hashem ala shal. So Hashem upset him, and he struck him al hashal, and the pasuk says vayam Hashem died. Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, two explanations on the words al hashal. Chadam one explains al iske shalo. Shalo means a lashon of shigaga, a mistake. So he had a shigaga that he reached down, he grabbed the Aron barehanded like that, and that's why he was punished. The other one explains that it was really disrespectful. He tended to his personal needs in front of the Aron. Rashi says, Shalu is a lashon of shilya, of being cast. So his trachav he did, and that's why he was punished. Vayam Hashem im Aron halakim. So he died with the Aron. Why do we express it like that? Despite the fact that he was punished severely, but of course ultimately he arrives at Olam Haba. How do we know? Shanamar im Aron halakim. He died with the Aron. We make that connection. Ma Aron lo'olam kaim, just as the Aron is eternal, even though it was concealed, it was put into hiding in the time of Yeshua HaMelech, but as we know, it still exists and will exist eternally. Af Uzzah ba lo'olam haba. Likewise, Uzzah reaches Olam Haba. After this episode, David HaMelech took personal responsibility. He was there, and he took responsibility for what happened. Vayichar leDavid al shaparatz Hashem peretz b'Uzzah. He was upset about this whole thing, that Uzzah got punished, and it sort of happened under his watch. Rabbi Elazar shenishtana panav kecharara. So Vayichar here means that his face turned like blackened. It got blackened and it looked like a charara, that's something baked over coals, which gets blackened. So he was doing tshuva, and he had tsar, and his complexion sort of changed like that. Ask the Gemara El Mi'ata, if that's how you translate Vayichar, so then Kol Echad Chsev Vayichar. Throughout the Torah, whenever we have the lashon Vayichar, we have Vayichar Hashem, right? Vayichar Hashem. Is that what it means? Achanami? Does it mean a complexion change? Of course not. Says the more there's a difference. Hosam Ksiv Af. When we have by Hashem, Vayichar Af Hashem, it says Af. Af meaning his anger was expressed through one's nose. It's a much like a person's anger, and you see in his nose, his breath. So that's all it means. Hachalik Ksiv Af. But here, All it says Vayichar LeDavid. It doesn't say Vayichar af David, so that's why we describe it as Nishtana Panav Kecharara. Dorash Rav. Why? Mipnei ma ne'nash David. In fact, why did David HaMelech suffer this punishment that Uzzah died under his watch? Because David HaMelech regarded Torah as Zmiros. That's how he referred to Torah, like song. When I was on the run, I was being chased around in a time of trepidation and fear. What kept me? Your Torah. The interaction with the Torah, which is like a beautiful song, like a melody, that kept me going. So Hashem says, look, it's a beautiful, thing that the Torah kept you going in your most difficult times, and you're relating to Torah like your lifeline. But choice of wording. The words of Torah shekasa behen, which are described as hasif einecha b'einenu. We have a pasuk, a mishlei, which warns us against even shutting our eyes temporarily, just momentarily. You close your eyes, hasiv and echba, you fold your eyes up, you close them up, Torah is gone. You need constant watch over Torah to keep it fresh, to keep it personal, to keep it relevant. You turn away, Torah slides away, you lose touch, you lose taste for Torah, unless you're constantly involved. That's how the pasuk regards Torah. Va'ata, kairo isen zmiros, and you call it zmiros, like a song. A song you don't have to constantly review in order to remember. It's a different thing. Song is beautiful, but it doesn't come close to the holiness of Torah. Torah has to be guarded and watched in order to keep it personal and keep it relevant to you. So there was some deviation here, a claim against David, and therefore he was punished. Because of that, I'll make you stumble. Bedavar, in something which is so obvious to everybody. Even kids in school know this idea that the Aaron carries others and doesn't need to be carried by others. The Chsiv, as the pasuk says, the pasuk there describes the way the Leviim carried the parts of the Mishkan. Everybody had these wagons, but the Bnei Kahas, which carried the actual vessels of the Mishkan, like the Arain, were not given wagons. You know why? Because they carried on their shoulders. These were holy items. So everybody learning Chumash knows this. An Aron must be treated with the greatest respect. V'ihu ase beglosa. But David HaMelech, when he transported the Aron, he brought it with a wagon. So that was really the pitfall. That was really the stumbling block. He made that mistake. And as a result, it sort of generated a whole string of issues, and there was a lack of respect overall. It sort of affected the environment. Let's put it this way. It affected the whole Sviva, and subsequently led to Uzzah's mistake as well, and his ultimate punishment, which really distressed David HaMelech. Okay, now let's go a step back. When the Aron was taken by the Plishtim and then ultimately returned, they sent it off with this wagon. Go, we don't want you anymore. You're causing us trouble, right? You're too holy for us. So the Aron makes its way back and it reaches Beis Shemesh. Vayach ba'anshe Beis Shemesh kiro ba'Aron. So Hashem struck the Anshe Beis Shemesh because they viewed the Aron as it arrived. Mishum Dero, just because they looked at the Aron as it was coming, Vayachi, he struck at them? The answer is like this. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Lazar. There was a machlokes between these two how to explain what they did wrong. Chadam, one explains, Kaitzrin, they were sitting out in the fields, harvesting their grain, and they noticed the Aron, so they're bowing while they're doing their business. They didn't take a time out to properly relate to the Aron with respect. The Chadam, the other one explains, they actually expressed words of disrespect to the Aron. Man Amriach, who got you so upset? The Imrayas that allowed you to get upset. What happened to you that you allowed yourself to go into captivity? Uman asalach the Faisas, and who came back to you to appease you? What happened? Why'd you go? Why are you coming? And they were struck in a grand way. Vayach Hashem killed Shivim ish, 70 people, V'chamishim elef ish, and 50,000 people. The fact that the pasuk separates 70 and 50,000, we learn that it has a deeper meaning. Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, there was a machlokes between these two how to learn. Chadam, the one explains, Shivim ish hayu, 70 were killed, V'chal echad be'echad, and each one was so important. Shokol chamishim elef was like 50,000. So 70 people, but each one had the chashivas of 50,000. V'chadam, the other one explains, chamishim elef hayu, there were 50,000 that were struck. V'chal echad be'echad, and each one of those 50,000 was so important. Shokol kishivim Sanhedrin was like equal to the 70 dayanim of the Sanhedrin. That's what such a great tragedy it was. Okay, so then they took the Arain to this person called Oved Edom Hagiti, and there he really had a lot of bracha from it, a lot of kids. It was there for 3 months. David HaMelech, seeing that it's going to create bracha, that things are good, decided to take the Arain to the Ir David where he lived, and the pasuk describes the march, the procession. So when the carriers took 6 steps, so David brought as a korban a bull, a shor umari, and a fattened bull as a korban. That's one pasuk. So every 6 steps. Uksiv, and the other pasuk says Shiva parim and Shiva elam, 7 parim and 7 elam. So which one was it? 1 shor and umari, or 7? Amar Papa and Shmuel, both are true. I'll call psia. Every step that they took, they stopped and they celebrated shor umari. That's one thing, one pasuk. I'll call shesh psias, but every time they completed 6 steps, a brand new celebration where they brought Shiva parim and Shiva elam. Amalei Rav Chizda and Cain, if you're giving so many karbanis, and of course each korban had to have his own sort of mizbeach, like a bama. Imagine what the place looked like. So if this took place between Kiryas Yearim and Yerushalayim, that's a huge stretch, and every step, every 6 steps, you're talking about mizbeches, and you can't destroy a mizbeach. So where are those mizbeches today? So apparently it wasn't so many. Elam Rav Chizda was a little less than that. I'll call sheish p'siyah. A shayimari was brought for every 6 steps. I'll call shisha sidarim shal sheish p'siyas, but on every 6 sets of 6 steps, meaning every 36 steps, then they brought a shiva parim and shiva elam. Now, let's just go back a step. Initially, David HaMelech had planned on bringing the Aron to Yerushalayim, but then that tragic event happened with Uzzah, and decided to switch tracks. He brought him to he brought the Aron to Oved Edom Hagiti, and after seeing the bracha that it was generating, he decided to bring it up to Ir David to Yerushalayim. So let's just go back to that story with Uzzah. Pasuk says they came, Vayavoyu ad Ger Nachin. They came to Ger Nachin. The Aron was sort of wobbling, and Uzzah got into trouble. And then, so one pasuk says Vayavoyu ad Ger Kidain. The other pasuk says Vayavoyu ad Ger Nachin. Apparently, it's the same event, the same story. Here it's called Kidain. Here it's Nachin. Why? Ksiv Kidain, Ksiv Nachin. Why? Rabbi Yehuda is just describing the events as they happened. But Chila Kidain. Initially, the Aron became like a kidain, like a spear, because of the tragic event. But ultimately, when it was sitting in the house of Oved Edom Hagiti, and it generated bracha, Nachin, it became Nachin, the source of bracha, and ultimately, David HaMelech decided to bring it up to Yerushalayim. Okay, now we're going back to the story of Klal Yisrael crossing the Yarden, and this is the last part of that brisa which we began. So then they crossed, and they had the stones, and they established the stones on the Har Eval, etc. So ultimately, it comes out that there were 3 shloisha mini avonim hayu. Throughout our history, we had 3 sets of stones that had significance. Number 1, echad shehike Moshe be'eretz Moav. First set of stones was where when Moshe Rabbeinu established those stones in Ivar Yarden in Eretz Moab before he crossed the Yarden into Eretz Yisrael, and on those stones he wrote out the Torah in all languages. Shenamar Ivar Yarden Eretz Moab Hayel Moshe Beir. So Moshe Rabbeinu presented the Torah with clarity. So how do we know that it's referring to the fact that he established stones and put the Torah on them? Because further down the road, the pasuk says, in describing the stones that Klal Yisrael are going to establish on Har Gerizim, by Har Gerizim and Har Evel, we find a similar lashon. Right? We find that the stones were meant to have the Torah on them, Bayer Hetev, and we connect the two psukim. Va'asya, Bayer. We use the word Bayer. We connect it back to Moshe Rabbeinu. That Moshe Rabbeinu also did a similar thing. He put up stones upon which he recorded the Torah in all 70 languages. So we have one set of stones, Moshe Rabbeinu, the other set of stones by Har Gerizim and Har Evel, Ve'echad, and the third set of stones, Shehekim Yeshua B'Sech HaYarden, which Yeshua established as a monument in the Yarden as they were crossing to provide testimonial to the tremendous nays that we experienced. Shenamar Shtemes Re'avonim, Hekim Yeshua B'Sech HaYarden, in the Yarden itself, Ve'echad Shehekim B'Gilgal, and the other set of stones he put in Gilgal. So basically we have three sets of stones. Number one, Moshe Rabbeinu. Number two, in the Yarden, and it appears from this Gemara that they stayed in the Yarden. Third set of stones were established by Har Gerizim and Har Evel, upon which they wrote the Torah. Right? So they had the stones there, they built a Mizbeach, they brought the Korban, took apart the Mizbeach, wrote the Torah on it, and took it with them to Gilgal and left it there. Tanur Rabban, Ketzad Kos V'Yisrael HaTorah. How did they write the Torah on these stones? We have a difference of opinion. They wrote it directly on the stones. As called the Torah Azois. He meant to write the Torah on the stones themselves. After which they painted the stones with the Torah on them already. They painted them with some sort of paint, some sort of lime. Because the pasuk says, "V'sadata isam basid." So they sort of covered over the Torah with sid. Amalei Reb Shimon, says Reb Shimon to Rabbi Yehuda, how could you do that? You're making it unseen. According to your approach, how did the nations learn the Torah? The whole point was that, we're translating it so everybody gets to understand it. If you're covering it, what's the point? Amalei, so Rabbi Yehuda says, Bida Yesera, Nosem HaKadosh Baruch Hashem implanted them with exceptional wisdom, extra talent, and they dispatched their scribes, like a notary public, a sefer, a scribe, the kilfus hasid, and they were able to peel off this paint with this plaster, and they discovered the writing beneath it, and they copied it over, and they copied the writing. So now they had the whole Torah, and they knew exactly what it's about. Because of this knowledge that they sort of ignored and disregarded, they're written off for eternal loss. Why? They should have learned, they should have educated themselves and followed the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach and respected Klal Yisrael for their Torah. They didn't. So they're lost. Rabbi Shimon Omer al Gabi Sidka Svur. First they painted the stones, they plastered them, upon which they wrote the letters of the Torah of Koslam Lamata, and they added a message for the nations of the world beneath the Torah as follows: Laman Asher Loi Yilamdu Eschem La'asais Kechol Ta'avoisam Asher Asu Lelihem Achatasam Hashem Lekechem. The message was like this: why is the Torah telling us to banish the locals of Eretz Canaan? Why? They shouldn't teach you their errant ways, their errant lifestyles, right? So that was the message they sent to all the guys. Beneath the Torah, they wrote, by the way, this is the whole purpose of attacking the locals in Eretz Yisrael, in order to explain to them the motive and give them a way out. So we learn from here that if even if a Canaanite, a Ben Canaan, would have come back and done tshuva, would have perhaps kept the Shiva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, perhaps that's what it means, they would have accepted him. And Rashi explains it did not apply to the locals who were in Eretz Yisrael at the time, during the Klal Yisrael's arrival, because they perhaps are doing it at a fair. But so they're not really to be trusted that they're genuine. But the ones living outside Eretz Yisrael, the B'nai Canaan living outside, if they decided to turn a page and get on track, then we would accept them and they would not have to be banished. Amar Rava bar Shila, my time with Reb Shimon. Why does Reb Shimon say that the words of Torah were written on the Sid? The other nations are going to have streifa burning like this Sid. What does that mean? Al Iske Sid, because of the plaster-related issue. They ignored the Torah that was presented to them on a silver platter, on a plaster platter. Rabbi Yehuda says like this. According to Rabbi Yehuda, why is it called Al Sid? The Sid was on the Torah, not beneath the Torah. The reason why we mention Sid, Ki Sid, we compare the fate of the nations who don't conform to Hashem's will, like to the Sid, to plaster. Just like plaster treated by, the only way to treat it is by burning it and heating it up. Likewise, the nations who don't conform to Hashem's will end up with the same fate of streifa. One more Gemara. Kaman Ozlal Desanya. In accordance with which shita was the following brisa stated? The brisa says in the pasuk, Yiseitzel Milchama, you go out, out of Eretz Yisrael, you wage war, v'shavisa shivya, you capture your captive. A captive from the goyim, which is sort of a redundant language, v'shavisa shivya. It teaches us a halacha. L'rabba is knanim sheb'chutz la'aretz, that the knanim who are living outside Eretz Yisrael, it's coming to include them, coming to allow them a way back. If they do tshuva and they return to Hashem's ways, when makabel them, there's no din of destroying them. So whose shita is this? Come on, Reb Shimon. That's Reb Shimon's shita. The whole point was to send them a message that if the chayzer b'tshuva makabel them. So apparently those outside Eretz Yisrael are not included in the din of leisechayik and neshama. There's no need to kill them. According to Rabbi Yehuda, we don't have such a dispensation. All the Knanim were in the same boat. So, what did we learn today? We started with the Meraglim. Their evil scheme was there from the get-go. We have Kalev's clever way of getting everybody's attention. We discussed the various expressions that the Meraglim said in a very negative way, and the Einish, the Bechia L'Doros that was generated because of their Bechia Shal Chinam. We find the Einish that they experienced Midah Keneged Midah. We went back to the Yarden. We find a miraculous thing that the Arain would carry its carriers across. This was a profound lesson which was not internalized properly by Uzzah, and we have David HaMelech, we called David Teres Miros, and there was a taina on him. We have the way Anshe Beis Shemesh related to the Arain. We find that ultimately the Arain was brought with great pomp and celebration back to Yerushalayim. We have three special sets of stones throughout history: Moshe Rabbeinu's stones, the stones in the Yarden, stones in Gilgal. And we have two opinions in terms of how the Torah is written on those stones, certainly in all languages, and in order to send and teach the nations of the world the light, give them a glimpse of the light of what it's all about. All the best to you, Hatzlacha Rabbah.